I had a video I was gonna do about my art parents, and in it I was gonna break down the artists that influenced me the most. I come with a heavy heart after hearing about Akira Toriyama's death on March 8th. Toriyama unknowingly became my mentor, idol, and inspiration. Along with this time lapse, this video is going to be a walk down memory lane, half therapeutic and half indulgence, and my love for the creator of Dragonball and what the series he made meant to me. Dragonball is my favorite series, hands down, full bias. And yeah, it has its flaws, sure, but it's still without a doubt one of the best shows to ever pave the way. When I get asked about my top 5 list, I will and have always started off by saying Dragon Ball is my favorite, but that's because it holds a special and untouchable place in my heart. Dragon Ball to me is like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Marvel and DC to most people. I live and breathe this series. When I get bored, I rewatch the fights. I go down a rabbit hole. I've seen them 100 times, but I'm still entertained. Piccolo vs 17, goated fight. Def's top 5, no doubt. These characters are just so charming and badass, it's hard not to fall in love with them, and the way they're designed and look and drawn it's just so appealing. My first ever exposure to Dragon Ball was during a trip to the mall when I was 5, which was in 1999. I'm getting old. As kids do, you kind of just wander. On this day I wandered a little too far and got lost. A little flustered and panicked, I started crying, and while I continued stumbling, leaving trails of tears for my parents to find, I instead found 2 cards on the floor. The first card was of Kid Goku riding Nimbus, and the second card, which I unfortunately don't have anymore, was the most underrated, underappreciated, and underdeveloped Super Saiyan 3 Goku from movie 13. I was floored. This did not look like a cartoon I'd seen in my long 5 years of life. I was hooked. Where's the Cocoa Puffs? Cause I'm about to go cuckoo. That moment triggered what is now my love and passion for the series. From this point on, I wanted to draw Dragon Ball and only Dragon Ball. I even remember my first bunch of attempts at drawing Goku Super Saiyan 3. It was hilarious. I'd draw his long hair with all these spikes, but instead of it draping down, it stood straight up. Essentially what Beast Gohan is now. But the reward of figuring out how to go from that spiky mess to hair that had forces of gravity placed on them, and it resembling Goku, was an addiction that would stay with me my whole life. And at this point, Dragon Ball has become my choice of show. The order of how I watched the series was a little all over the place, since I didn't have the channels that played the English dub, which here in Canada was YTV. We resorted to different measures, dial-up internet and LimeWire. And I say we because my brothers were the ones doing all the searching. I was too small to understand how the computer worked. So my viewing experience was watching the Japanese dub with English subtitles. It was literally potato quality if you compare to what we've got today. Though that didn't matter to us because we didn't know anything else. So even being able to watch it was a win for us. The order I watched the series in is Buu Saga, GT, Frieza, Android, Saiyans, and then Dragon Ball. It was super out of whack. This was also because at the time I was watching Toonami and they'd play a bunch of the ocean dubbed stuff, but never in order. Plus I'd have VHSs recorded that we'd get from my brother's friends. You know, anything for that Dragon Ball fix. And you could talk shit if you'd like in the comments, but if GT was one of your first things you'd watched as a kid, you'd probably appreciate it. It was a good adventure story for kids, so I never really understood the hate it got until later on when you have the whole series to compare it to. You end up realizing that they were trying to capture that early Dragon Ball spark. But like honestly, imagine how cool it was for me as an 8-year-old going to school and telling everyone about Super Saiyan 4 and describing how he looked. Yo, kids would lose their shit. Some wouldn't even believe me. It was like I came from the future, since GT and a lot of the latter half of Dragon Ball hadn't been dubbed yet in Canada. And come on, we gotta talk about the opening. Even as a kid, GT's ending was immensely sad. I don't think I would have been able to tell you that as a kid, because I didn't understand those feelings or even how to articulate it. But this finality was something of a first for me as a kid. Having this feeling of that's it hit harder with the opening, and still remains one of the saddest songs to listen to, even though I had much of the series left to explore. This is all to say that Dragon Ball had a big part in my childhood. From the show, to the coloring books, to the bootleg Chinese knockoff toys, and to the imaginary fighting sessions I had trying to save the planet from Frieza. Everything began to revolve around my love for Dragon Ball. I wish I had all the sketchbooks I drew in as a kid, because I started drawing my own Dragon Ball manga. They were retellings of the show, but with minor changes here and there. And this went on for a while, until a monumental change in my mentality towards Dragon Ball and my love for drawing shifted. I didn't want to draw Goku anymore. I wanted to draw my own characters alongside him instead, creating worlds and storylines of multi-dimensional fights that had villains overlapping and fusing from different sagas, crazy bombastic situations, but through all of it, instead of controlling the fates of Goku and the Z Fighters, I was controlling my own character. What now, thinking about it, was probably a persona that was meant to be me. I wanted to be like Goku and the gang. Seeing what input I could have in the story is what sparked my own path towards making manga and comics. It's that moment of breaking away and seeing if you can create something that can hold the same weight as what you loved so dearly. As the years continued, Dragon Ball stayed in my life, but my tastes grew. Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, Naruto, Cowboy Bebop, Bleach, Full Metal, Death Note, Berserk, all of these newer influences took over what Dragon Ball began. My pool for artistic creativity grew and my style and tastes changed. But throughout the years, I still couldn't stop myself from drawing, talking, hoping, and predicting what would be next for Dragon Ball. I lived in a time where DBZ had finished. All we were getting out here in the West was reruns and dubbed material that has been finished since the 90s. The Budokai and Tenkaichi games were the leading charge when it came to hype for the series, but other than that, it was pretty quiet. What was left most days was me and my cousin geeking out about old material. Until Dragon Ball Evolution came out and single-handedly tried to destroy the entire legacy and brought back Akira Toriyama to clean up that dumpster fire of a movie they made. Dragon Ball got a whole second win in 2013. I wouldn't have believed it as a kid. To me, Dragon Ball Z was over and done with. I was just grasping at the little straws left. For a fan, this was the best thing that could have happened. 2013 was also the year I started animation. If it wasn't for the spark I gained from reading and watching Dragon Ball, I don't think I would have chosen a career path in the arts. Going to school, I learned the ins and outs of animation, filmmaking, and how to properly draw. Which meant when I came back to Dragon Ball and its manga, I began to appreciate how amazing Akira Toriyama was at telling a story through these quirky characters, insanely striking posing, and his ability to guide the reader through his paneling. I finally understood why me and everyone else was totally addicted to his series. He was just a master of his craft. He gave us his absolute best. And that's kinda where I want to end this. Dragon Ball finished in 1995. The extra stuff we got in 2013 with Super and the movies, all of this to me is the cherry on top. Akira Toriyama finished his series and his vision. He impacted multiple generations and was a mentor, inspiration, and idol unknowingly to so many. He came, he saw, he conquered. Rest in peace, Toriyama Sensei.